Welcome back to Ringfreaks channel. I am Ignas, and first of all I would like to thank you for such a big support for the investigation of the curb video. It was definitely a good laugh to make that video and you understood the joke. Today let's speak again about the F30 roll cages and building these cars for the track. And today I will tell you 3 simple secrets how to build the cage a little bit better. So the first one is how to weld the roll cage from the top of the roll cage without removing the roof from the car. The second, how to access with your welder in the places where it's really not accessible. And the third thing will be how to protect your roll cage from this ugly rust in these places where you really cannot reach with your grinder to make all the rust and everything out before the paint job and so on. And now let's start with the first thing. So how to weld the roll cage from the top. Because the roll cage tubes actually go really close to the roof and there is really no access with your welder to simply weld there on the top. And as you see, the black F30 already has the cage inside and the roof is already replaced without a sunroof because this car came with a sunroof. But we actually have changed the top of the roof before we installed the cage. So the car, let's say, was always with the roof when we were installing the cage. It was because later, once you install the cage and you want to change the roof, it's much more difficult to prepare well the roof for painting. So that's why we simply just change the top of the roof first and then we install the cage. But as you see, the gap between the cage and the roof is really small there in the corner especially as well, and it's really not possible to get your welder there. And I will show you how it's done. So now let's see this white car, and here also the top of the roof is already changed without a sunroof and the cage is, let's say, is about 30% done. The top of the cage is already fully welded and all the welds are there from the top and from the bottom are fully welded. And the trick is simple. So in the corners where the back stay and also the front stay of the roll cage will be, you have these plates. And these plates will be welded eventually to the car and it will be a part of the roll cage. But while you are still welding the cage in the car, you do not weld these plates to the car, and also you do not weld these plates to the roll cage fully. And you do it this way because when you want to weld the cage from the top, you simply move the cage a bit, you remove the plates, you have already drilled hole for the roll cage to go down, and you simply move the cage down like this, and you have a full comfort to weld the cage from the top in various positions. You weld all the welds before. Of course, you tag them while the cage is in the correct position and you lower it and when you weld it fully. So that's the first secret. You simply drill the holes, you lower the cage, you weld from the top, you raise the cage, you put the plates back on the holes, and the cage is again in the place, fully welded from the top. Now let's talk about the secret 2, welding in inaccessible places. So the roll cage, most of the welds are like really easy accessible with the welder and there's completely no problem to weld most of them. However, like in the front stay corner, deep down there, also in the back stay in the corner, you really won't manage to weld the side X to the main loop and also this stay to the front stay. It won't be simply possible to weld there because there's simply no space. But everyone has some tricks, and the secret here is that you can simply use a simple ratchet strap to pull each side of the roll cage closer to each other. So you basically shrink the roll cage from side to side, and when you move the cage, let's say to the left side, you weld the right side. When you move the cage to the right side and you weld the left side, and that makes it really easy access, and in the end you just release the ratchet and the roll cage expands again. But it's very important in this case to have the right sequence, because for example, like now we have a main loop here, and we also already welded the end of the bottom X to this tube while pulling next to this tube to that tube. But if we would already have put the back X, we would be not able to do that. The same counts in the front, so the front corners you need to weld before you put the bar under the dashboard. So here comes the experience. You need to have the right sequence, which tube goes after which tube, not to get in the position where you won't be able to pull the cage or move the cage around the car to have all the welds completely done. And the third secret is how to prepare the roll cage for painting. And I won't be talking about like paint, sandpaper or whatever, primer. I will be talking about not to be lazy while you're still building the roll cage. And the thing is like this. We have already built the roll cage in the black F30, Ford Sierra is standing with the roll cage, and we are finishing the roll cage in the white F30. And these cars will be, let's say, standing like this with the naked roll cage for about 2 months or something before we manage to paint them, because we are not building the cages like full-time now. We have other stuff like rental going, so it's between these things we build the cages. And it's very important not to have rust on the cage, and also after we paint them and the cars are running in rental, that they would always be like with a nice paint and without rust. And the ugliest part usually are on the cage, like these corners deep down there, or these corners we always get rust because you cannot really get the paint there too much, like properly. The secret here is that when you're building the roll cage, simply after you finish the weldings, clean all the welds with wire brush. So like here you see, all the welds are silver clean, and they are simply wire brushed everywhere. And the trick is like here. So when we were welding on the top of the roll cage, when the roll cage was lowered, then we already wire brushed it between the roof and the cage. So all the welds are already fully clean. And if the car stays like this in the dry garage, nothing will happen and no rust will come. The same counts for these small corners, because now it's impossible to get any wire brushed here, but when the ratchet strap was between the cage, we could simply put the angle grinder there and clean them. So the thing here is, don't be lazy while you are building the roll cage. Just think few steps ahead that the roll cage will be needed to be painted, and also that it needs to be without rust. And these were 3 small secrets of building the roll cage. And even you are not a roll cage builder, I hope you found this video quite informative. Well, today's video is over. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, and see you next week. Thank you for watching.